Response by Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova to a media question regarding the EU's double standards policy in assessing events in the Middle East and Ukraine. Question: why does the European Union have such diametrically opposed assessments regarding events in the Middle East and around Ukraine? Maria Zakharova: indeed, we have repeatedly commented on the EU's double standards policy. The radically different criteria the European Union applies in evaluating events in the Middle East, including the Gaza Strip, and those occurring around Ukraine, are yet another glaring example of the EU's duplicitous policy. It is easy to observe that when it comes to armed provocations in the Arab-Israeli conflict zone, EU High Representative Josep Borrell is in no hurry to draw any unequivocal conclusions, refrains from making accusations, and calls for an international investigation. For instance, his statement following the rocket attack on July 27 on the town of Mahdal Shams in the Golan Heights, which resulted in civilian casualties, including minors, was made in this manner. Similar calls for an independent investigation of the shelling of the Gaza Strip were made by Borrell on April 3, June 6, June 22, and July 14. However, when it comes to crimes committed by the Kiev regime against the population of Russia, particularly in the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, as well as the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions, Borrell sees no need for an international investigation. Sitting in his office in Brussels, 2,000 kilometers from the events on the ground, he does not even think to wait for the examination and verification of facts but is always quick to provide political cover for Zelensky's neo-Nazi regime, unequivocally placing all responsibility on the Russian Federation. Meanwhile, planned attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces on civilian targets, critical infrastructure, including the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, acts of sabotage, and terrorist attacks against peaceful citizens of our country, often carried out with the involvement of Western instructors and mercenaries, are diligently ignored by the EU High Representative and other EU officials. An unprecedented level of censorship is imposed in EU media. Overall, such behavior by the EU should be seen as an encouragement of war crimes and terrorist acts committed by Zelensky's regime against Russia and its citizens, as well as against Ukrainians themselves. Perhaps an even more striking testament to the hypocrisy and insincerity of the European Union is its position regarding the sabotage of the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines. It is entirely evident that no credible or trustworthy investigation has been conducted. Only staged actions aimed at covering up and letting the matter fade away. Naturally, neither the immediate perpetrators nor the organizers, sponsors, and beneficiaries of the terrorist act were identified by such political theatrics in the European Union. However, it is clear who among the Euro-Atlantic allies benefited from leaving EU countries without Russian gas. What is astonishing is the silence of the EU, or rather its individual member states, as this terrorist act was directed precisely against their energy security. This entire situation with double standards is part of the West's fabricated rules-based order and ideas of chauvinism and segregation, where the evaluation of events depends on the narrow self-interests of the US, EU, and NATO. We are confident that such an order, exemplified by the Russophobia engulfing Western governments, is not needed by any representatives of the global South and East. The logical result of the EU's inconsistent and ideologically driven foreign policy is the complete loss of its political agency and trust from the countries of the global majority.